The Zeapon Micro 2 motorized slider has a lot more to it than meets the eye. Stay tuned to find out why. The first thing that I noticed about the Zeapon slider is that it's built for battle. It's heavy, rigid, and all anodized aluminum. This thing has everything in all the right places. It's so well put together. And you can even see by the type of screws that they use, this thing can probably take a beating. We received our Zeapon slider with a neoprene case that holds the slider, the spider base, and the motor. By spec, it's able to carry about 4.5 kilos in any direction. But in practice, when it's tilted at a full 90 degrees, I would recommend keeping that weight down if possible. The Zeapon is the kind of slider that you would use for short moves. The entire movement is only about 54 centimeters, or 20 inches in American. On the other hand, it uses the same dual sliding movement we've seen on the Edelkrone sliders, so it packs those 54 centimeters into just 33 centimeters of rail. That places the Zeapon slider into the bucket of things I can carry in my bag. Although it is a little heavier than I would want, 2.5 kilos or about 5.5 pounds, probably from all the metal parts. By the way, that number does include the motor and the legs. You can use the slider by mounting it on a tripod or placing it on a hard surface. You mount a ball or fluid head onto the carriage and mount the camera to that. Then you can move the slider by virtually pushing it from any contact point you'd like. When you use it like that, there's this kind of like built-in tension that makes the movement very smooth to operate manually. In order to prevent the slider from moving when you travel, there's a couple of lock buttons that you can squeeze to hold it in place in the middle. Although, if you're like me and you opted to leave the motor on, the locks kind of become irrelevant since you can't take advantage of the natural resistance that's built into the slider. In addition to the slider, we received two attachments, a cool little spider leg base thingy and a beefy motor. The spider leg base thingy is actually called the Easy Lock Low Profile Mount. The first obvious thing it does is it allows you to get low on the floor. The legs of the Easy Lock only lift the slider about 7 centimeters off the ground. But another cool feature they built into it is that it essentially functions as a quick release for your tripod. The bottom screws into the plate of the tripod, and then you can release the entire slider from the tripod by only loosening one screw. So think if you're going to go from a tripod shot to a B-roll shot, it's as easy as unscrewing it and you're ready to go. No more spinning light stands or any of that nonsense. With the motor on, the slider travels its 54 centimeters in about 16 seconds, which isn't bad, but some shots call for a speedier movement, especially in video. And if you do push for that max speed, you get a little bit of noise. Nothing I would be too concerned about, but if you have the microphone mounted on camera, maybe slow it down. On the subject of the motor, I keep the motor pretty much permanently attached to the slider. I wouldn't go so far to say that it's hard to take off the motor, but it's a few little annoying, finicky things that you need to do in order to make the swap. Not to mention you have to carry a few parts and a screwdriver around with you. So on the one hand, it's pretty neat that it's plug and play motorized slider, but it kind of takes the fun out of the natural tension that you have built into the slider without the motor. Once you attach the motor, you can control the slider in two ways, using a set of touch buttons on the side or using an app. You can control A/B points and even control the speed in 3 increments with just 3 buttons. The power button and 2 direction buttons. The button language is a little bit awkward at first, so for your first couple shoots, I'd probably recommend you take a cheat sheet with you, just to kind of make it look like you know what you're doing. Still, being able to control the slider without an app is actually pretty cool. An app is one less thing you need to worry about on a shoot. But if you are into apps, don't worry, you're not left behind. The app also has its own language. Kind of. It takes some time to get used to, but you can control up to 5 waypoints and you can control the speed and duration of each of those points. The initial setup is actually really easy. Pair your phone with the slider by connecting it to the self-generating Wi-Fi, and that's it. The pairing is probably one of the most stable connections I've ever seen on a slider. It pairs quickly and you can get this thing up and running in seconds. Your phone almost instantly connects to the slider as soon as the app opens. Clicking the name of the slider will take you into the parameters and functions of the app. Sadly, the app doesn't seem production ready just yet. The main issue is that it's just buggy. It leaves the app when you turn the phone sideways, sometimes it loses connection. If you leave the app, you come back, you need to connect again, you go in and it doesn't connect. A bunch of weird things happen. And the other issue is the weird, not obvious way to set the waypoints. But I think that Zeapon will be able to fix both of these issues with firmware updates, so I hope they're listening. I will say this though, I did my testings on a Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and I know that Android apps are usually a little less stable because they need to accommodate so many models, whereas Apple is kind of more of a universal language. While the app is a bit off, the mechanical and electrical design is amazing. You run this off of a single NPF battery, and according to the spec sheet, it should only last 4 hours with a small one, but on all of my shoots where I had one, a small NPF got me through pretty much the whole day. The app also shows some additional controls like tilt and follow focus. What I can only assume this means is that there's probably something in the pipeline, so that's actually really exciting. So far, the Zeapon has been really fun to use. There's a lot of small things that you take for granted when you use it for a while. The main one being the hidden length of the slider. The fact that you're able to do a 50cm travel standing on a single tripod is a big deal. Normally, you would need 2 extremely sturdy light stands and a big "stay off my light stand" sign so that the slider would stay still. Having the ability to pop this on a tripod and slide it off when you need it off is a huge win for efficiency on set, and I'm all about efficiency on set. Another thing I found myself doing a lot with the tripod slider combo are angle shots. I mentioned earlier that the supported weight is about 4.5 kilos in any direction. Well, if you've ever tried to give a casual angle to a regular slider with light stands, you would have been disappointed to find out that 1, you can't just give an angle to slider on 2 light stands. Not a lot, anyway. They need to have a tripod head or something to give them that angle. Or you can be up to the environment and try and find something with not too steep of an angle, because 2, it's easy to max out the capacity of the slider. Both of these problems are solved when you're able to put a small, sturdy slider on a tripod. Giving it an angle is easily adjustable, and you don't have to worry about the carrying capacity because it's the same in every direction. The truth is that at just under $500, it's a pretty sweet deal. Other sliders with similar specs and build quality can cost you upwards of $1,000. This seems to be Zeapon's first main product, and it shows promising commitment with a roadmap to improve. They seem to be determined to be a contender in the world of sliders, and so far, they have my attention. I can't wait to see what's coming up next. Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, make sure you mash that like button and consider subscribing to our channel for some more awesome updates, news, and reviews. For now, I'm Adam Frimmer from DIYPhotography.net, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Oh,